Savvies, Abby here. I thought it would be fun today to take a look at the past, a little peek into the past of the different side hustles that I tried when I was pregnant. This was when I was a budding entrepreneur and trying a lot of different side hustles to see what would make me some money working from home. And there's one that absolutely changed my life, but I want to dig into these different side hustles with you today. If you haven't met me, again, I am Abbey Ashley and I'm the founder of The Virtual Savvy. Here at The Virtual Savvy, I help people work from home and create their own freedom life. I love helping people creatively carve their own path, figure out what it is that they love, what lights them up, and then give them an avenue to do that working as their own boss. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel and then click the bell to be notified every time I release new content. So a little backstory, it was in 2015 that I started looking for different work from home opportunities and side hustles. I really wanted a way to make some flexible income. And at the time we were living in a basement apartment that had one window. It was very depressing. And I knew that I had all of this creativity inside of me. I had, a lot of different kind of business ideas. I was constantly thinking of new business ideas, but I wanted something that was really worth my time, right? Any time that I was spending was taking away from my babies. I actually had one baby at the time. I was pregnant with my second. I really wanted any time that I invested into a business to be worth it, right? I didn't want to be doing it for nothing. I wanted it to make legit money. So that was my biggest criteria for looking for a side hustle, is that I wasn't looking for a hobby, right? Like I was looking for something that I would both enjoy and would actually make me money. So it was around that time that I started testing different side hustles, and one of them actually completely changed my life. So I'm going to share with you what I did so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. The very first side hustle that I attempted was selling jeans on eBay. Yes, that was my very first side hustle. So what did work about the side hustle is that it made a little bit of money, right? Like I did sell a few pairs of jeans, but I had to do a lot of trial and error. So I realized very quickly what brands would and wouldn't sell, what sizes would and wouldn't sell. And honestly, this was actually before a lot of sites that have now come up, like ThredUp and these different online sites just to sell clothes. So I was selling them specifically on eBay. Honestly, the main reason why this didn't work as a good side hustle for me is because I was having to leave the house so often. So the only way that I could actually find these jeans was to go to different thrift stores and sit there and manually search through, and some days you would find them and some days you wouldn't. And I had a 2-year-old to try to keep busy while I'm looking through jeans. It just didn't work. And it really wasn't a scalable model. There were only as many jeans as there were, right? Like I couldn't control that. And when you can't control your inventory, that's a big deal. And so that's why I decided, this really is not worth the time and money and investment, right? Because I was having to buy the jeans up front and then hopefully sell them. So I had inventory. It just really wasn't a scalable business model, and one that really didn't fit with my lifestyle. All right, since I was already into selling things, my second side hustle was selling textbooks online. So most cities that have a university have these stores where you can buy textbooks. And so what I would do is I would buy a textbook from one of these stores and then find it online. So I'd sit there with my phone and search and see, would the buyback sites, so there's websites that will buy back books, and was there a difference, right? So if I could buy this book for $20 at the store and someone would buy it back for $35, then I made $15, right? And so that's what I did. I literally flipped textbooks. And again, the positive, it did make some money, right? Like I was able to sell many of these books for a profit. It was more guaranteed income, right? So I knew if I bought that book for this much that I could sell it for this much because it was just listed on the site that they would immediately buy it for that. But again, it was very time consuming. I'm also, again, pregnant with a 2-year-old having to lug these giant bags of textbooks from the store, get them at home, print off all the shipping material, lug them back to UPS or whatever. And so it was very time consuming. The profit margins were usually not great, right? So I'm maybe buying something for 20 and selling it for 35 or 40, but it was never huge amounts. I'm just making $5, $10, maybe $15 at a time. And if you think of the hours that it would take me, like there's no way I was making more than $5 an hour doing this. And it was so much work. And so looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, no, this was not a good side hustle for me. All right, I want to know from you, what are some of the crazy side hustles you started? Let me know in the comments. My next side hustle was a freezer meal party business, okay? So hear this out. I thought it was a great idea at the time. I was like, everyone loves creating freezer meals, right? So what I did is I planned to have these parties where, everybody would come together and they would bulk pay for the ingredients and then divide them up, and you would get 10 or 15 of your friends together to do a freezer meal party together where you all would make freezer meals. You'd save money by going in on the ingredients together, right? Like that sounds, I'm like, we'll play fun music, we'll do this and that. Here's another important lesson that I learned in business during this process is it's really important to know who your ideal client is and what they want. If you think about who the ideal client is for somebody that makes freezer meals, right? It's usually somebody who's wanting to save money, right? The reason why they do these bulk shopping trips and why they make freezer meals is to save money. And so even though, yes, they were saving money by doing this in bulk, I still had to make money at the end of the day for doing all the shopping, for prepping all the stuff, for actually buying the materials and then giving it to them. And if somebody dropped out, then it was like, oh, what do we do with that? Where's the money gonna go? And I realized that when I was adding again, how much time I was spending on this, I was maybe making like $10 to $15 an hour for what I would charge each person to actually host the freezer meal party. Because again, I couldn't raise my prices too much because these are budget people, right? Like these are people on a budget. And so it really just wasn't a good working model. I think I only sold one ever. It was kind of hard to sell. And once I had tapped into my audience of moms, I was like, wait, I don't know other moms, especially moms that would pay for this. So this was one that kind of came up and then settled back down very, very quickly. And I decided not to continue going with. If you're noticing a trend here, margins is one of the biggest things. When I think about businesses that are scalable business models, there has to be a decent size profit margin, and everything that I've talked about here so far had a really hefty cost of goods, right? And when your cost of goods is really, really high, it's hard to have a business that actually makes profit at the end of the day. And so that's when I realized, man, maybe service-based businesses are a better idea for me, right? Another thing with each one of these businesses is that there wasn't reoccurring revenue. And even though a business doesn't have to have reoccurring revenue to have a good business model, the ones that do really, really thrive. This is why you're seeing companies like Panera Bread has like their unlimited sips club right now. You can pay a monthly fee to get unlimited drinks. Why do they do that? It's predictable, reoccurring income from them, okay? So it's the same reason all these subscription boxes are so popular is because reoccurring revenue is king. So I started realizing if I could have a business model that didn't have huge cost of goods, that attracted premium clients, and that had reoccurring revenue, that was going to be the absolute dynamite. Well, at this point, I had tried lots of different types of businesses, and to be honest, I was just getting more and more pregnant by the minute. So I actually kind of settled, in a sense, for a nannying job at that point. It was good for that season of life, and honestly, I loved the family that I was nannying with. They would let me bring my 2-year-old. It was reoccurring revenue. I was making decent money as a nanny. It worked well with my hours. So there were a lot of pluses, right? And maybe this is where you're at, where you have a job, you're like, this actually is good money. I'm getting paid every single month. There's a lot of benefits to it. But here is the major drawback. It just didn't make me come alive, right? Like I didn't wake up each day excited to go to work. I was living a job, but I wasn't living my passion and my purpose. And I just knew in my gut, there's got to be something else, right? And so I think that, when you're looking at what is it that I want to do with my life? Maybe you're in a comfortable career, right? I had worked at universities before this. I had worked at different PR and admissions roles, and I liked those jobs, but none of them made me come alive the way that entrepreneurship did. And so I knew that I had to keep going. That brings us to side hustle number 5, and this is the one that stuck. I remember talking to my friend Nicole, just saying, I wish there was a way that I could make money from home, right? I didn't want to be lugging to thrift stores and to UPS and these textbook stores. I didn't want to have to leave my home to go take care of somebody else's kid. I want to work from home. I want reoccurring revenue. I want profit margins, right? Like, these are all the things that I want. What should I do? And that's when she suggested virtual assistant. She actually had a friend who had started a virtual assistant business, and she said, I think you'd be really good at this. So that night I scoured the internet and I realized this is a job I could do with the skills that I already have. I could be working from home. I could be attracting premium clients. I could do something that, doesn't have these massive cost of goods, right? A service-based business is my time, but it's not like I'm having to make an initial investment of a product that I'm going to resell. It was reoccurring revenue. It's literally all the things that I had been wanting. And it was just like this light bulb moment of, I think I could do this. So the quick start that I am, I started calling myself a virtual assistant the next day, and something incredible happened. All of my friends who had been supportive of the freezer meals and, my other little side hustles were like, Abby, this is cool. And they started telling their friends who were business owners about my services. I showed up to 2 or 3 local networking events, and instantly people were like, I need what you're selling, right? I had a service that people actually needed, and it almost sold itself. It was a scalable business model. It had the reoccurring revenue, but then I could also bring in more and more and more clients. And with more clients, I started having too much work for myself. So I started subcontracting some of the work to my friends, other moms who were looking for flexible work as well. And so I actually started this little mini agency from that one window basement apartment that was sucking the life out of me before. It really became the grounds of which I started this massive agency that went on to replace my income and went on to replace my husband's income. And that led me to start training other people how to start virtual assistant businesses as well. And I'm so grateful. Honestly, I'm really thankful for those failed businesses because it got me to where I am today. And it got me here talking to you to be able to share with you virtual assistants as well. So if that's something that you have thought about, if you're like, or maybe just from watching this video, you're like, wow, you're my person, right? You're my Nicole saying, hey, maybe you should look at virtual assistants. If that's the case, I do have a free 60-minute training. It's thevirtualsavvy.com/BBO. You can watch it. You can see, is this for me? What services would I offer? How would I charge? How would I get clients? We cover all of it in this free training. So I want to know from you, what's your next big, bold step? It wasn't easy to start a new business, especially after I had so many failed businesses behind me. But that next step was the right step, and it led me to where I am now. So I want to know, what is your next bold step? Let me know in the comments. All right, Savvies, as always, it's been such a pleasure to hang out with you. I'll see you in our next video.